everybody, this is the Ecclesiarch here, back to you with some more Warpforge, and today I am delivering the tier list that you guys have been asking for quite a while, and I finally managed to catch a good time, which is when a new faction has already been released, we've had a patch, and I think this is a good time to make a Warlord tier list, and I think things are actually a little bit more clear than usually are. So I can definitely, I think, give you a better idea of what exactly is going on currently in terms of power in the game. So before we begin, please keep in mind that this is still, at the end of the day, my personal opinion, which means that there is a chance that you disagree with a lot that I say, or maybe a few things, maybe everything, maybe nothing, who knows. So if you disagree with me, please leave a comment in the comments and just tell me your opinion, tell me why you think so, and so on. Now, we're going to be rating all of the warlords that are currently in the game, and they're going to be rated according to 5 ranks. So it's going to be God tier, which means that probably this specific warlord or whatever is making this specific warlord so powerful needs a fix, maybe a nerf, maybe a change, something so that it is not as oppressive. The strong is going to be a tier for the warlords that are doing extremely well, but they are not perhaps so good that they would be considered to be oppressive. I think strong is the tier where you would like most warlords to be if you want to have the game at the most fun stage that it can be, basically, right? Now imagine if all the warlords were strong and there were a few that were sometimes God tier. That would be perfect. Now good is the tier for warlords that you still can play and get a lot of success with, but it's going to require more effort than the strong ones. This can be due to either the meta currently being stacked against them, or maybe some of their key cards being nerfed. They're still good, but they find it difficult to compete with the warlords that are above them in the tier. So that's going to be reserved for good old, solid picks. Now, then there's going to be the needs help tier, which means that these are warlords that are currently struggling. So if you play them, you are probably going to have a harder time than usual, and probably these warlords require buffs or whatever is throwing them down into the shit tier, basically, needs to be adjusted. And even below them, we have the Everguild Please tier, which means the worst warlords in the game, the absolute worst, because they either can't do anything in order to compete. If you're playing them, you're basically handicapped against the opponent because you're playing something that is far weaker, and or maybe they're just in a faction which has a warlord that does the same thing but better. Orcs. Yeah, so without further ado, let's just get right into it. And guys, please also keep one thing in mind. Just because you love a warlord and you play it well does not automatically make a warlord good. I hope you understand what I mean by that, right? So you might love a warlord, you might make him work, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be able to compete on the high ranks if you take, for example, 200 games. So if a warlord cannot get over a 50% win rate from 200 games, that warlord is not good, even if you managed to win quite a few games with it, right? So just keep that in mind as we rate as well. So I think we're going to be starting off with the boys in blue, so the Ultramarines. And Ultramarines have had a very good patch for them, which really bumped up their strength because a lot of things have been returned to how they were in preseason, with a little bit of a change that is mostly conditional. So the stats that the units, for example, had by default, like the Inceptors, now they get it through Codex. The Death from Above still does 5 damage as it used to in the preseason, but also through Codex. So they added some conditions to them, but they are now really, really powerful. However, I do not think that a lot of them deserve the God tier. So let us start off from Marneus Kalgar, and I think the Chapter Master goes to the strong tier. I think that he's pretty good. I would say he's quite solid because his Master Tactician now gives armor and he can trade quite well. Even though his ability is kind of basic, he's just drawing cards, not doing anything. He has 40 HP and he always has like cards on demand, which means that he can just, keep bashing you, keep expending resources while also drawing cards and never running out. And that also allows him to play a burn style, which means that he is going to use most of his deck in every single game. He will burst you down. He has a lot of tools for aggro now. He can also play some more control based if he wants, but I think aggro is kind of the way that you go with him. And overall, he is quite solid and in a pretty good spot right now because he basically does what he used to in the preseason. Maybe not as strong, maybe other things are quite powerful now, so he's not as oppressive, but it's still a pretty solid and strong pick. Now, Lieutenant Titus, I also would say is quite strong. Some would put him below, but I think Titus is one of those underrated warlords that also deserves the strong tier because his ability to just keep constantly healing and dealing 3 damage while also dealing blast damage to the enemy warlord is really good, especially like when you're fighting something like the Tyranids. Like when you go first and when you do acid rain, the Tyranids might as well just surrender because in most cases you are going to be winning. And he also has the assault doctrine now, so which was added with the recent Ultramarines reinforcements. That came with his buddies Chiron and Gadriel. So he can really become extremely powerful in the late game as well. I don't know if he's better than Kalgar currently, but I think he's still pretty strong and in a pretty good spot. He's more of a duelist. You have to play him in a different fashion compared to Kalgar, which I honestly like because I don't like it when you have to build all the warlords the same way and just slap like a different name on it. That's not fun. Now, the third one is going to be Chaplain Litharius. Litharius, I think, is good. I think he's probably the weakest Ultramarine Warlord currently, but that still doesn't make him, like, really bad. He does have that cool ability to draw cards or buff his troops, and he has a strike as well. The problem with him is that he kind of does the same thing at the end of the day, like Kalgar, but he always draws troops, so he doesn't draw stratagems, so you need a very specific build to make him work, plus he has less HP. And because he doesn't draw stratagems, he can't really hope to get death from above or whatever else that he wants. So you mostly play Chaplain Litharius as a troop-based warlord. So if you don't know the channel of Joachim Silverblade, I think that's the guy you really need to check out if you want to learn some more Ultramarines. He has a very good Litharius deck and it can really work. It's just that it's definitely not up there with the other warlords because it just does what Marneus Kalgar does, but a little bit worse. However, he does have more troop support now, so he should also be in an okay spot for sure, and definitely is not in need of help. Now, first I'm going to talk about Uriel Ventris. I think Uriel Ventris is also strong. I'm not even sure if he goes above Kalgar or Titus. Honestly, maybe he's below Kalgar. I haven't played enough games as Uriel Ventris, but I do really like how they've changed him because, well, like as in it made him stronger. I still preferred his old way of having an extra card, but then again, if I thought about it, Chaplain Litharius already plays the troop-based early game tempo variant, so Uriel Ventris having 1 cost on his ability really helps him because he can do a lot of AoE damage, and having that extra burst and extra pressure due to that AoE really puts him in a good spot because he can honestly pressure you so much that he will just burst you down with aggro. So he's very similar to Kalgar. The difference is that he has no card draw of his own, so you need to run stuff like Hero's Respite. So again, he needs to be built in a different way. Not completely different, like, for example, Tharius, Titus, Kalgar are quite different, but Uriel Ventris plays a different type of deck, and I think that he can really do a lot of work. He can really play on that aggro quite well. I'm just not sure if he's better than Kalgar. Now, Varo Tigurius, I'm putting straight into God tier. Yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy, but he's only crazy if you play the correct way. So I do suggest you either check out either the deck that I put on my channel or go onto the Discord and see the Varro decks from some of the top players. The way that people choose to play Varro these days is quite simple. What happens there is that people include only 3 to 4 tactics in the deck, sometimes like even less, I would say, like only 3 tactics, not even 3 to 4, even cutting the humanity shield. So they just include zeal, they just include the refills, and with Sergeant Talion, he just becomes extremely powerful very early because he always has the refills and the zeal on demand. He's the main reason why Avenging Zeal was nerfed in the cost recently when it was, and together with some powerful vehicle and early game troop support that he has, he can be like nigh unstoppable. Also, he now has more troops with Codex to work with, so that puts him like in the most reliable and consistent Warlord list. So I think currently Varo Tigurius is definitely a god tier Ultramarine Warlord. If you're not finding success with him, it's fine. That is mostly because you need to get used to how to play him. He is not an easy warlord to play. You need to get a hang of it, but once you have a hang of how to play him, you will see just how powerful he is. Now, if you guys would like to see me do a video about all the Ultramarines warlords and their builds together, like mashed in one video, basically, so a deck on each Ultramarine, you just let me know. The reason why I'm not offering this for every faction is that not all factions really have different types of decks to play. Ultramarines right now actually can be quite diverse in terms of their decks, so it might be a good chance to do something like that. So tell me in the comments if you would like to see that. Now, off to the biggest offenders, the orcs. Now, orcs are, oh boy, orcs are quite devastating, honestly. And the problem is that currently I would put 2 of their legendary warlords in god tier, and orcs really are having the time of their lives. I think this faction has been having the time of its life ever since this game was released, honestly, because they are just so powerful. Now, what makes the orcs currently so powerful? Well, they received some very good cards as a support in the recent reinforcements, and there were some things that were extremely broken. Well, starting from the War Boy, it's absolutely stupid. It's basically bringing back the Unbridled Carnage combo, which resulted in a player getting, like, I think the highest points on the ladder that has ever been seen. I'm not sure. So Everguild ended up gutting a lot of their stuff, like the Green Horde got nerfed again. It used to be 3, then it became 4, and now it became 5, I think. And like a lot of their things did get nerfed, but they're still extremely powerful. These 40 HP warlords, Mozrok's Crackbat that can deal 4 damage to your warlord every turn with his talent. Also can get 3 damage, has the Stomp to share the damage with adjacents. Then you have Gaskell Thraka, which summons Grots and now also buffs them. And these 2 warlords are on top of the food chain because they are playing, they are the best for playing I think the 2 archetypes that the orcs work best with nowadays. One is, once again, I think the Warboy combo is still going to work because there really isn't a reason for it not to work. It's going to be a 1-turn delay with the Green Horde nerf, which is a huge deal. Actually, 1-turn delay is a big deal, but nevertheless, it's still going to work. It's still very hard to deal with. There's also a ton of squigs that they get. The number of ways that these guys can summon the bomb squigs are like absolutely insane. That's one of the biggest issues because, like, with a lucky squig, you can end up shaving off like a lot of the enemy warlord's HP in a single turn, which is devastating. And on top of that, they're very beefy and tanky. They also now have the Squiggoth, which is an amazing late game unit. So orcs got a lot of tools that they can really work with. However, they also did receive some nerfs, and mainly their nerfs that they received recently were the nerfs to the Prop Achille, which really knocks down the orc aggro gameplay, honestly. I think, and one of the one of the things that really puts them in a problematic situation is that orc aggro, if you're playing orc aggro, you're now playing with squigs. You're no longer playing to face bash. And honestly, I kind of like them not having the Propakili as a free win card anymore because, you know, Gordrang could just smack you off from like, I don't know, 14 to 15 HP, which was like disgusting. But now their aggro is overshadowed by these new tactics. So I think there are some of their warlords that are not doing too well. When it comes to Gordrang, that's one of the warlords that really got hit hard with all the nerfs because the tactic that Gordrang used to use was that he would put on armor and he would just bash you and then finish you off with a proper killie. Now both proper killie and the armor have been nerfed, but I don't think he's like trash tier or anything like that. I would say he currently needs a little bit of help. Maybe like another change of his ability is in order because both him and the Terror of Vardengast have a similar ability. They attack something and they heal up with Slay when they kill it, which is okay, I guess, but that means that Gordrang no longer becomes an aggro warlord. He becomes a control warlord that just uses his ability to remove enemy troops and just heal up. But the problem is both Gaskell and Mozrog are better at controlling the board, so he's currently in an awkward spot. Beast Boss Morgrim. Now, some might disagree with this, but I think he's either strong or he's either good because this is the actual Orc Warlord that can play aggro. I'm actually going to be a little bit biased here and place him in the strong because I've been playing a lot of him and I think he's the Warlord that can now play aggro because for every beast that he plays, he gets a +1. He also gets a +1 attack from his ability, gets to draw beasts as well. So now running proper killie on Beast Boss Morgrim is actually pretty good because this guy can really beat the hell out of you with enough beasts, and he has a lot of ways to make the beasts cheaper, to generate beasts, and so on. So he really can end up beating down the enemy quite well. I think he is the aggro warlord right now for orcs. If you want to play pure aggro, I think so. Again, I'm a little bit biased because I like this warlord personally, so if you disagree, make sure you leave it in the comments and tell me what exactly you think about good old Morgrim here. Yeah, Boss Daxtruk goes into the Everguild please tier because oh boy, this guy has been struggling ever since the game came out. Everguild tried making him stronger by making his ability 1 cost, which is not bad, but again, he suffers from the fate that I mentioned at the start of the video. There are warlords that do whatever he does, but better. Gordrang gets +2 attack, while this guy gets +1. Sure, he gets the armor. That doesn't really matter because if you're trying to beat down the enemy, I think that you can easily say that +2 attack is a bigger deal, especially now with the nerf to the proper killie. Boss Daxtruk is almost never going to be seen on the ladder. I think that this guy needs a change. This guy needs a dedicated talent, maybe something for Storm Boys, or I'm just not sure because I think currently this guy, not even currently, ever since he came out, he's always been bad. Especially when Gordrang got stunned, Gordrang had stun when he came out. Yeah, it was just impossible to play Daxtruk. So yeah, I think that this is one of the warlords that really struggles and really needs some attention. When it comes to Grok, I'm not sure how to feel about Grok. I think he's somehow in the same boat as Chaplain Litharius. He just has that card draw, which is pretty good. It's a nice little touch. It's just that he used to play pure control orc, and pure control has been nerfed with the nerf to the armor as well as the nerf to the Will of Gork, which I think was kind of unnecessary, honestly. So right now he also will suffer from the fact that other warlords will do the control archetype better than him, but I think he's still okay. His ability, just like Kalgar's ability, is pretty good. He also gives that +1 attack, so I think he's playable. He's pretty all right, but I do not think that he is going to be he's in any way going to be higher than good tier. Once again, if you have a different experience with him, you just let me know. Now, off to the Eldar. So, the Eldar are in an interesting situation. This is a faction that probably has received the least attention from all the factions that are in the game. So literally no other faction has received the low amount of attention from Everguild as the Eldar. I'm not sure why that is the case. Maybe it's a personal maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe it's like I don't know. Maybe it's a plan that they have for them in the future or something. I don't know. But the fact is, they have been under the radar for a long time, and one of the main reasons of that is also that they only have one play style. Well, okay, two play styles, but 90% of the cards that the Eldar Warlords use are going to be identical. Either you're playing all the good cards for aggro, or you're playing the Reclaim the Stars. There's literally no other way to play the Eldar. And if you try to do anything in something interesting, sure, it can work, but it's not going to be good. So when it comes to aggro, I think Jane Zar is in the strong tier. She's like pretty damn solid because her ability is just abusive as hell. You can stun lock an enemy and keep them stunned forever, which is very, very scary. On top of that, instead of the stun, she can always use it to deal 4 damage to the enemy face. So the amount of control and damage that she has can be quite oppressive sometimes. And, you know, whenever you face her, depending on what you're playing, you're not gonna have a good time. She mostly struggles with things that play a whiteboard, but overall, a very, very strong warlord that I think like is the best of the Eldar warlords. So if you want to compete with the Eldar, I would definitely go for Jane Zar Agro because, you know, she's the best way to play them right now, fortunately or unfortunately. When it comes to Iliak and Anvir Keltok, I think both of them are good. I would say they're definitely better than these guys, the others that I have here. Iliak, because Iliak can also play the aggro style like Jane Zar, but he also has more HP. He does have the ability to increase his damage by giving himself Shuriken, and he can also give the whole board a Shuriken. So he could deal like potentially huge amounts of damage to you. It's just that he's a little bit inconsistent, and he has less of an abusive ability compared to Jay Zar. Because if Jane Zar gets a bad draw, for example, and is struggling, she can always stall with the stun, and Iliak can't really do that. So Iliak does have that issue of consistency. Anvir Keltalk, I think, is really good. I would even consider maybe putting him in the strong tier, but currently, I think the problem that he has is that he can't deal with the amount of aggro that's going on currently. Maybe, like, mostly because the Ultramarines, the Orcs, they're just gonna beat him down. The only real way you're gonna be playing Anvir Keltalk is he's going to be getting like spirit stones very easily. He's super consistent, so he's always played for Reclaim the Stars because, you know, you can ditch late game cards that you don't want, swap it out for other ones with his ability. You always get the spirit stones. On paper, this is like the perfect warlord, but he's just having a hard time dealing with everything that's going on right now in the game. I don't think he's in a bad spot. I don't think he needs a buff. No way. I think he's good as he is. Just don't touch this guy. Don't make him like extremely overpowered. He is a warlord that really changes his spot based on the meta. If it becomes more control based, he's gonna rise up. If it's more aggro based, he's gonna go down. So I think he's a solid Eldar warlord if you want to play with him. Madrial Galen. Oh boy. This used to be the best Eldar warlord, if you guys remembered back in the day. But a lot of things have really changed after that. Those tokens that she summons are no longer as impactful as they used to be. I think she is not in the Everguild please tier, but she's definitely in the needs help tier. I just think that currently, as things stand, she really can't do much because her ability is just not enough to compete with the other Eldar, because the other Eldar just have either stronger abilities compared to her, or Iliak Zephyrblade just does the aggro better because he had got more HP, so he's more survivable, and he also gets like his strong talent to push the aggro. So I think Galen is one of the warlords that currently need help. maybe a passive, maybe a buff to her ability. So overall, I think she needs help, and I think overall the Eldar need help because they really need that identity. They need more deck options. They need something. So maybe we will wait for their next reinforcements or content drop, and maybe something can be done about them. Now, going on to the Necrons, and we have Imhotep the Stormlord. Ooh, yeah, he's really good. I don't think he's god tier, but I think he's like up there in the strong tier. I don't even know where. Maybe I would even place him first. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where is the most objective place to put him. Maybe somewhere here. I don't know. So he's strong, that's for sure. Because with the buff to his ability, he has become the control warlord again, as he's always been. So I think he is very powerful because he is very durable. He can really mess you up if he manages to survive the very first few turns. Tomb World is still good, and constantly being able to cast your ability non-stop to heal just makes this guy almost indestructible. So he currently, I think, is one of the best warlords in the game. Definitely the best Necron warlord, and buffs to some things like the what's it called, Ophidian Destroyer and other stuff really did help him out. So yeah, I think Imhotep is currently in a very good spot for control Necrons, and that's the one that you should be aiming for if you're playing Necrons. Ramatek is definitely a good warlord. I don't think he really needs help. I think he's just pretty good. Solid, I'd say. He's like Imhotep, but less reliable. He does have a better combo with the damaged hex marks. He does have armor. Some people play him as a duelist. I just think that he's not that good. Mostly the reason why he's not that good is that Imhotep is just a little bit better, and plus his ability is good to help him be more survivable, but he's not as strong as Imhotep because he doesn't have an ability that is that reliable and oppressive as Imhotep's. I think he's, don't get me wrong, I still think that he's good. He's the other option for control Necrons if you want to play him. It would be good to make destroyer-based Necrons viable, but currently it's not. One of the ways that you could play Ramatek is just go for destroyers for aggro, but it's just not that reliable currently. But I think he's okay. You can definitely play him and have a good time if you like the Warlord. Now we got Oricon the Diviner. Now this is like, I don't even know what to say about this. This I don't know. This is the hardest warlord to rate. Let me tell you why. If you're a maniac and you play Scarabs, then yes, he's really good. But other than that, he's trash. So it's very hard to really rate this guy. I have to put him in good, but I have to tell you that I don't think that him being good comes from the warlord itself being good. The only reason he's good is because he can play Scarabs, and that's it. If Scarabs like left the game, then he would be terrible. So I think this is like the Everguild please help tier, but in terms of him requiring a huge rework, because I just do not believe that this guy has any value if you don't play Scarabs on him. Sure, you can play some control interesting decks, but in reality, those are not going to be as good as with Imhotep, and Ramatek is just going to be inferior. So I think this guy just needs a rework, and that's it. Zandrek, on the other hand, I think Zandrek needs help. He's definitely better than the others. He's a tough one, because he could play some interesting tempo Necrons. But every time they buff him, every time they give him something, it just doesn't seem to be enough because, again, it's suffering. I think this is a problem of the warlords that just summon tokens like Madrial and Nemesor. I think their tokens are just so outdated now that they really don't do much because everything just can be killed in a single turn by most warlords. So it's not giving you tempo, it's not giving you anything. Best you're really doing is forcing the enemy warlord to take 2 extra damage. So I think he's in an interesting spot with adjacents not disappearing, him being able to summon those Necron warriors. I just think that he needs some sort of help. Maybe some of his cards need help. Maybe the meta needs to change. But currently, he's going to struggle compared to the other Necrons. Oh boy, we're at Chaos, one of my favorite factions. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I think Abaddon straight up I'm putting in good tier. I think he's pretty good. Still, not as strong as he used to be. Mostly due to a couple of reasons. Mostly due to the fact that orcs are gonna demolish him. Ultramarines are gonna out aggro him. And yeah, that's like one of the main reasons why this guy is probably struggling. And you know that Chaos struggles whenever there's like a ton of flyers and things becoming popular. And Tau are starting to become more popular than they used to be. So I think that might also hurt Abaddon a little bit. So he's in an okay spot. I think he can still do well with mid-range and with control, but otherwise I think he's just good, and that's pretty much it. Galeron would go into needs help tier, I think. Galeron is my favorite Black Legion Warlord, and I think his buff was absolutely perfect. I really like how he changed, and I really like how it really defined him as the control warlord. But I think that there is a huge problem that people are not noticing with Galeron. So it kind of goes under the radar, but maybe if you've been watching my videos, you might know what I'm talking about. It's not that he's having difficulty with the aggro meta. Sure, he does, because he's a 35 HP warlord, and he has no energy dump, which means that his ability can only be used if something is on the board. And, you know, that kind of a change really makes a warlord powerful when they can just dump their ability each turn. Remember how bad Abaddon was back in the day when he couldn't, when his ability was just to give a Dark Pact? He was terrible. But then they changed it to also being able to give himself HP, and his win rate instantly just rose up like crazy. So that's one of the things that Galeron is suffering from. But apart from that, the one big thing that he has is the Hellfire Outburst. So whenever you're playing against like Galeron, just play Hellfire Outburst, and in most cases you're just gonna win, because he just can't deal with that, because his ability just is like, oh, you know, I'm gonna slowly heal as you attack me, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to like outlast you. But what if I'm just playing an aggro warlord, get a Hellfire Outburst, and just beat on your face? What are you gonna do? In most cases, like in 99% of cases, when I fight against Galeron, I choose that offense card, and yeah, he's just done in most cases. So I think every guild really need to look at that Hellfire Outburst offense card. I think it's just stupid. All right, Sylar, I think, is strong. I think he's the Black Legion Warlord you want to play currently, because he does the aggro the best, because of his ability, because of the extra Abaddon's Chosen that he starts from. So I think he, even despite the small nerf that he got a while ago, I think he's still in a good spot. If you want to play Chaos competitively, I think you're playing Sylar aggro. And here we go, the brother of the boss Zackstruck, Harken World Claimer. I know Harken has a lot of dedicated players, and I know you guys love him, and I kind of love him too. I think he's a cool warlord, cool design, nice character and everything, but currently he's struggling as hell, man, because he does the same thing as Abaddon does, but unlike Abaddon, he needs to keep bashing face for it to work. Sure, he comes with Blast 2, but he's paying 2 energy to do Blast 2 and give a Dark Pact to a friendly troop. Now compare that to Titus. On turn 1, Harken has no ability unless your opponent already dropped a troop. Titus can basically use his ability whenever, because he can attack and then heal. When he needs a blast, he'll get the blast, but he'll also heal, and he'll also get a +1. Harken is just gonna get a blast. So he needs another troop on the board, He needs to then attack, take damage. There also must be an enemy troop on the board for him to get maximum value, and then he does an RNG on his adjacent troop, which might be a very bad Dark Pact or a very good one. So layers of RNG and requirements to make this guy work. I think he needs help desperately, and I don't know why he hasn't really gotten it yet, just like Zackstruck. He really, really needs this because he's been trash ever since he came out. Yeah, and I said he has dedicated players that are going to make him work, but in terms of his strength, in terms of his uh, power compared to the other warlords, he's just not there. All right. Moving on to the NIDs. The Swarmlord is tricky. He received an HP nerf, which knocked him down from God tier to like trash tier, but then he received an ability buff. I'm not sure where to put this guy now. He is either strong or on top of the good tier. I think he is good. I need to test him more to give you a more comprehensive idea on this guy, I think. But with his ability now costing 1, he can be more flexible with it. He has the Neuraloid opening now, which makes Neuraloids quite bulky and durable. So there's a lot of things that he has going for him, because one, ability cost is really good. It is a good change for him, and it does make a difference. And I think that he is finally, I think, going to be in an okay spot without being too oppressive or being like underperforming, because ever since this guy came out, he's been like a monster. Terror of Vardengast certainly needs help. He's like he's suffering from the same thing as Warboss Gordrang. It's literally the same thing, same ability, less heal, but well, he does have that ability to deal a crazy ton of damage if he swarms the board. But I think he's just in a spot where it's just not enough. You are not going to be able to control the board enough to then just burst the enemy. You need a combo, so he's very combo dependent, where you can just like shit out your hand and then just do a bloodthirst or something. So I guess this is another warlord just struggling with its identity right now, because it's supposed to be an aggro one, but Stormlord's going to be better at that any day of the week. So I think Vardengast certainly needs help. I think Neuro is really good, though. I think he's really good right now. The change that they gave him, Synapse, was absolutely perfect. I think he's I think he now has a very clear identity where he's supposed to play with zoanthropes. So not zoanthropes, sorry, the Norn emissaries. So I think that's what he's supposed to do right now. You just play with your emissaries and you just drop them early on, and you hope to win the game like that. Also, the buff to the invulnerability plus range damage really helps him, as well as it does help the Swarmlord a little bit. So I think overall Neurothrope is a solid Tyranid Warlord that you can definitely play right now. Not in the strong tier, but it's definitely solid. And the next one is Tervigon, and Tervigon honestly is a hard one. A lot of people are going to disagree, but I'm putting him in good as well. Maybe even above Abaddon, I'm not sure. So the problem with Tervigon, guys, is that this is one of those warlords that is very easy to suck with. So, like, if you don't play this warlord well, you're going to think that this is the worst warlord in the game. But people who know how to play this, it's hell to deal with. It's not, like, extremely strong or god tier, but it's a good warlord. Some people say that he's trash or, like, needs buffs, but I don't think so. I think this is a very good warlord. It just needs a dedicated player to pilot it well, a player that can knows ins and outs of this warlord, because it's like one of those that really needs good deck building and it really needs good performance. So it's not the case where you just like a warlord and make him work. This is a little bit different. This is an actual good warlord, but unless you are good with it, it's not going to give you good results because it's hard to play. So that's a little bit of a difference from what I'm saying, what I said from the start of the video. So that is something that definitely you should consider. All right, now off to the Tau, and I think Tau are pretty good right now. Onva goes into strong. I think Onva always manages to go under the radar because every time Tau get buffed, people start playing Shadow Sun, Omezos, and the Warshaper. While in reality, I think Onva is the guy because the flexibility of his ability is still really good. Getting the Storm of Fire on demand, getting shields, heals, armor, he can do so much. And it's really well reflected on his win rate as well, honestly. So I think if you're looking for a strong Tau commander, this is the one because the ability to just control the board like that, and plus with the fact that a lot of Tau's Vanguard has been buffed, really puts Onva in a good spot because he can make that Vanguard even more durable, even more safe. So I think he gets the most value out of those buffs that the Tau have received. At the same time, I also think that the Tau Warlords are pretty good. I would even say like Shadow Sun is like really, really good. Warshaper is also pretty good, I think. Or does he need help? What do you think, guys? I think he's still pretty good. Warshaper, yeah, this is a tough one actually to say, honestly, but I think the all three Tau Warlords here are, I think, good. The only problem I have with this is I'm not sure about Warshaper, but I think he's also pretty nice. It's just that like the 30. Actually, I think Warshaper I'm gonna put down in needs help, and I'll tell you why in a second. So Shadow Sun and Omezos, I think, are both in an okay spot. Omezos is still as annoying as always. If she manages to get the board control with her drones, it's over. If you manage to break the control and take over early, then probably she's not gonna come back. But it's still a good warlord that you can really play and push up with. But I just like Shadow Sun better. I think Shadow Sun aggro is really good, and maybe Shadow Sun Battlesuit, kinda, but full Battlesuit decks are not that reliable nowadays. I think just Shadow Sun aggro is the way that you really want to go with her, and I think she can do really, really well. I think she's just a little bit worse than Onva, and that's pretty much it. Plus, Tower having a pretty good time because they're absolutely crapping on Emperor's Children, because Emperor's Children really struggle against everything that's flying. So there's that. I think Warshaper needs a little bit of help because with the amount of squigs and Ultramarine Burst that's going around, 30 HP is not the place to be, man. Like, with a couple of squigs, the orcs can just delete this guy out of existence. I think it's more that he's struggling against the meta than that he's I don't know, that he needs a buff. I think putting him at 35 might be a thing. I'm not sure. I think 30 HP Warlords just do not work in this game, at least. For now, that is like my opinion. I mean, he's still good in certain metas, but I think his HP issue is just too real. Oh, we got the sisters. Ho, 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 ho. Okay, let's start off from Morven Val. You guys know I love Morven Val. I think she's good. I think she's like a solid aggro sister warlord, the one that you play on penance, the one that you really use to counter certain metas. I think she's good. You can climb with her. I've done it many times. I think that she's quite all right. I would say maybe. I would say maybe she kind of depends on what meta it is, but I wouldn't buff her per se because I think what she does well. So you should just leave her as she is. I think she's just a good, solid sister warlord. But that's not something I would actually say about Evelyn. So Evelyn, I think, needs help. The problem with Evelyn is that she is carried by a strong faction, not by her ability. She is carried by the fact that sisters still have some cards that are super oppressive, like the Order of the Rose, the Invulnerabilities, very powerful defense card at 40. So she's just being carried by all of that. I don't think that she's that good, especially after the nerfs to the Relics of Saint Cat. I think that the problem with her is that she will never achieve Demon Breaker. So Demon Breaker having to, like, starting at 8 is now too much. I think they need to lower Demon Breaker threshold, maybe to 6 or something. I don't know, maybe in that case she might become a little bit stronger, but honestly speaking, like think about it. You got Ultramarines getting Assault Doctrine at 8 energy, so I don't know. I think that she needs a buff. Perhaps her ability needs to become easier to pull off because currently as she is, she's just being carried by the factions. So that's the issue that she has. I think it's the same with Junith actually. So I think it's like if you take these three, it's the token warlord problem. Like summoning these tokens just doesn't work anymore. It's not the thing that works anymore because you're wasting 2 energy just so that somebody can face bash and kill it. I don't think it just works anymore. Junith's ability has been nerfed to oblivion, and honestly speaking, I'm not sad about that. Fuck that ability. I mean, that was one of the worst metas to play against, but I think she needs a different type of help. They need to give her something that maybe makes her more fair to play against. So yeah, something similar to that because what she was doing before, I think, was just too much. And Erika, however, goes into the strong tier. Now, fight me for it if you want, guys, but I think she's strong because her ability is currently very oppressive because she can just perma-stun lock you while also dealing 3 damage. And her prayer, also giving +1 health, is also extremely powerful because she can steamroll and she can just snowball like crazy. So I think when it comes to like who is the strongest Sister Warlord, it definitely has to be Erika Luminas. So, because again, she drops a troop, makes the HP bigger, you can't kill it, too bad. Now you're not gonna get the board back. And if you do, then he's gonna keep you perma-stun. So every drop of faith that she gets is extremely extreme problem for you. Because as soon as she's at 8 faith, or is it 7 actually? Let me just double check. Oh, it's not written here. So I don't remember if her ability is at 7 or 8. I think it's at 7. Yeah, it's just game over for most warlords. So yeah, I think she's just a solid control warlord right now, and the best from the sisters for sure. Then we also have Primus Safa. Are you surprised that I'm gonna put her in strong tier? Because Genestealer shenanigans still work, guys. Just because you can't play the stupid sabotage deck that requires you to just smash your face into the keyboard doesn't mean that she's bad. She's actually still really good because you still have that vehicle abuse with the stun and the damage, late game vehicles. You still have the old ways of playing her with Uprising. There's still like ways to play her with the Kelemorph. And you know, there's a lot of things that you can really do with Safa. And she's still as reliable as she used to be, drawing cards, troops or tactics or healing. So the only problem with this one is that she outdates, like she not outdate, but she makes every other Genestealer Warlord just subpar. And in terms of being subpar, both Magus as well as Laska, they both are in serious problems because Magus has not been played ever since he got nerfed, and Janari has not been played ever since she got nerfed. I think the problem with Janari is that her design was innately trash because giving the ability to somebody to just give the opponent these sabotages in the hand while also having a ton of ways to give sabotage to the hand was a toxic design. I think that the problem with this is that she gets snipe while not getting rage attack anymore. But if you give that back, then she becomes too abusive. So I'd say the best way to change Lashka would be to return her +1 attack, but instead of sabotage, give her the ability to trigger an ambush of a friendly troop. I think that's what it should have been from the beginning because she came with a lot of ambush cards, and why they decided to make her abusive as hell, I have no idea. With Magus, honestly speaking, Magus, I think at this point could go back to reducing the cost of whatever he generates, but he should not generate legendaries, and otherwise I think he's gonna be okay. Energy cheats are just a difficult territory, so yeah, I think that's the problem with these two warlords. I think Icon Ward Malek, I think he could go into good because he can still play aggro. I think he's more still carried by the faction because just like Evelyn, but he's just a little bit better than Evelyn because his ability is a little bit better. So he can play an aggro-based Gene Stealers. It's just always going to be inferior to Safa. Otherwise, yeah, Gene Stealer, half of their pool is Warlord pool is trash. Now for the Astra Militarum, and this is actually a pretty fun thing. I think all of the Astra Militarum Warlords are actually quite good. The difference is that I think Leontus needs help, while these guys, I think these are all pretty good. I think they're even like somewhere on the top. I'll tell you why. Hector, Thenman, and Ursula Creed are basically doppelgangers. They do the exact same build, exact same thing. One just draws cards and has an extra stun, while the other generates value. They're mostly carried by their very good early game cards and Lehman Russ tanks, while also having the Armored Lightning, which is still pretty good, even after the nerfs. Dankler with the flank is still alright. He can still pull those late game vehicles, even though it has been nerfed quite a bit. I'd say, I'd say maybe he goes a little bit lower because he's definitely not as good as the others. I think he can still pull off a lot of interesting things. It's just that he's way less reliable than Hector and Ursula. Actually, maybe I would even put him in a needs help. I think he also needs help, yeah, but I think both of them are like on top. They're not like very bad. Both are pretty good. I think Lord Solar Leontus is really, really good with his aggro. His ability is nice. His duty is interesting. I just think that Leontus really struggles with the fact that he needs either a passive or a cooler ability or something. I mean, he's the Lord Solar, for Christ's sake. I mean, he needs to have something extremely cool than just give +1 attack. I mean, come on. He needs something awesome. I think the good way to do it is to make Lord Solar maybe a dedicated aggro warlord. Maybe give him some sort of card draw. Maybe give him a passive that whenever somebody triggers a duty, draw a card, or I don't know, something like that, right? I'm just giving an example. And with Commissar Denkler, I think they should change the infantry to a vehicle, actually, maybe, with his duty. It would be a little bit more interesting. Or maybe his talent... I'm just thinking maybe his duty to give flank to a vehicle might become a little bit too abusive. But I think it would be good to give him the ability to somehow synergize with vehicles. But then there's a problem that kind of doesn't make sense because Commissar, he's a Commissar and he's supposed to be with infantry. So that's the thing, like, that's the problem. I don't know. I actually have no idea currently how to help these guys, but the fact is that they need a little bit of help. Dankler mostly because his late game vehicles have been gutted, but Lord Solar because his ability just needs a little bit more help, or he needs an extra passive because he's not in the best spot right now. Okay, the next thing that we got here are the Dark Angels. I'm just gonna straight up put Belial here with needs help. Belial has an extremely powerful ability, guys. Like, his ability is like one of the best. +2 attack, +2 armor, and he can also draw a card with his Slay. The ability on this guy is just insane. The problem, however, is that he has zero synergy with his faction, because he's drawing troops, and if those troops are gonna have teleport, there is a big chance that you're just messing up whatever you're doing. You're messing up your teleport. So then you have to play Belial without the teleport, which is crazy because he's supposed to be the master of the Deathwing, so it makes no sense that he has no teleport synergy. Then you have to play him on aggro, and I don't think Dark Angels are really that good at playing aggro. I think this is a case where not necessarily Belial needs help. I think is that their card pool is not designed well to be played with aggro. So Belial, I think, needs some dedicated aggro tools for him to become a little more viable. He just doesn't have any synergy with his faction. Otherwise, like, his ability is nuts. If he was an Orc Warlord, oh boy, he would just beat the shit out of everybody. Imagine an Orc Warlord with this ability, right? With 2 armor and 2 damage. Holy hell, that would be crazy. And the card draw. Azrael is still good. Maybe a lot of people think that he's no longer good, but he's definitely really good. He's he's still consistent, he's still powerful. It's just that a lot of his things that were extremely powerful got smacked, so he's no longer the powerhouse that he used to be. I think he's in a good spot. With a maybe some minor buffs to Dark Angels, he could become strong again. But you gotta be very careful with that, otherwise the faction tends to become more abusive. And then there's this guy. Holy hell, like, man, I friggin' hate Asmodai with all my being. Because he's so popular. Everybody plays this guy. Everybody always full on the ladder with friggin' Asmodai. That's the only reason why he doesn't have a very good win rate, by the way, because everybody sucks when they're playing him. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people do. So, because everybody loves playing Asmodai, right? I'll be honest, I also like Asmodai. The design, the voice acting is just perfect. The problem with this guy, however, is that he's too RNG based. With Asmodai, it always seems to be the same thing. Either you manage to get whatever you need on turn 4 or 5 and win the game, or you never get it. So he's like very, very RNG dependent. And even though there are good ways of controlling that and making sure you get the cards that you need, not making sure but increasing the chances, he's just too RNG based for my taste to put him higher than good tier. But I think both him and Azrael are solid picks that you can definitely play quite well if you want to climb the ladder. And finally, we have our new arrivals, the Emperor's Children. So what do I think about the Emperor's Children? I think that Lucius the Eternal is pretty good. Or maybe even strong, I would say, but not really, not that much. Ever since they received the nerfs to some of their abusive cards, which I think is good because we really don't want them to be as abusive as they were. I think they've dropped down in terms of their power. Lucius still does it well. I think he's like on top of the good tier, maybe like together with Swarmlord, because he's got like 3 damage on his attacks by passive, which is really good. He's got a very powerful ability, which was nerfed from 1 to 2, but it's still pretty powerful. And Emperor's Children are honestly just made to be an aggro faction overall, because I think that they are not meant to play any other thing, because like, think about it for a second. They have no Vanguard. Most of their troops have terrible ranged attacks, so they need to beat you down and finish the game before you're able to lock them in. Like, they struggle really hard against the Tau faction when they do that, when they play against them. So it's a very difficult. Not only Tau and Eldar are hell for Emperor's Children. So I think he's strong still. Maybe lower than Swarmlord, but definitely not as powerful as he used to be. When he came out, he was God tier for sure. As for his other 2 buddies, I think Zarahan I would put in good still. I'll tell you why. He kind of does what Lucius does. Actually, no, I'll put him in needs help, and I'll tell you why exactly. I think the thing with Zarahan is that he does not need a buff. I think he needs better demons, that's it. Either bigger pool of demons or his demons becoming a bit stronger. It's a good Warlord for sure by design. It just needs more to work with. And I think with the Emperor's Children reinforcements that, all of us can be sure is going to bring Shalaxi Hellbane and some other demons like Keepers of Secrets, I think. At least, I think so. It's going to help Zarahan quite a bit. So I think he needs a little bit of help currently, but in terms of his card pool, and that is. As for this guy, I don't know. It was a good touch that they buffed him, but I still think he needs help because Lord Kafrael, he needs to play the same style as Lucius. Zarahan can play with demons. He has a different play style compared to Lucius. While Kafrael does the literal same thing as Lucius. Literally. Generate some drugs or whatever he does, and just finish off the opponent with aggro. As I said, Emperor's Children can't play control. They just don't have the tools for that. They don't have enough like strong enough late game for that. And this seems like a more of a control warlord, Lord Kafrael. So I think this guy definitely needs help. Because I think mostly it's because his stimulation is very bad. It's terrible. I think that his stimulation needs to become either cruelty or something like that, and it can work. Again, the problem would be that he would still be an aggro warlord like Lucius, but as I said, I don't think that these guys can play control in the first place. So yeah. All right, guys. So this is my take on the current state of Warpforge. You tell me what you think, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Leave a comment, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Ecclesiarch out.